जॉर्ज गैलवे, ब्रैडफोर्ड के अवाम का हर दिल अजीज नुमाइंदा। जॉर्ज गैलवे सिर्फ एक नाम ही नहीं, किरदार भी है। एक रोशन किरदार जिसकी रोशनी ब्रैडफोर्ड से निकलकर सल्तनत बरतानिया और फिर पूरी दुनिया को रोशन कर रही है। आपका ये नुमाइंदा न सिर्फ ब्रैडफोर्ड के अवाम की आवाज है, बल्कि दुनिया भर के मजलूम इंसानों का तर्जुमान भी है।
You killed 1 million people in Iraq.
Speaking. You will not stop me speaking. You will not stop me speaking, however much you shout. Because when the Charlie Hebdo affair erupted, there were millions of people demanding that freedom of speech should be protected. And no one in Britain will accept the right of those shouting at me now to exclude a British Member of Parliament from the BBC in any constituency in Britain. The number of attacks on Muslims, on Muslim property, is many times more than these fascistic attacks on Jews and Jewish property. Not a single, not one single spokesman for the Jewish community, not a single Jewish community newspaper condemned the assaults upon me.
Of this, there is only one reason why the Rohingyas are being massacred in Burma, and that's because they're Muslims. No other reason. Absolutely no other reason.
रंग, नस्ल और मजहबी तासुबात से दूर दुनिया के किसी भी हिस्से में होने वाले जुल्म पर बरतानिया की सबसे मौसर और तवाना आवाज जॉर्ज गैलवे।
But there were thousands of Palestinians killed over the summer, and 500 of those were small children. I dare say a little older than the honourable member's grandson, on which I congratulate him, but in many cases not much older. There's an air of unreality about this debate so far.
Senator, in everything I said about Iraq, I turned out to be right and you turned out to be wrong. The Oil for Food program gave 30 cents per day per Iraqi for the period of the Oil for Food program. 30 cents for all food, all medicine, all clothes, all schools, all hospitals, all public services. I believe that the United Nations had no right to starve Iraq's people because it had fallen out with Iraq's dictator. You supported the illegal attack on Iraq. Don't talk to me about illegality.
I was not born onto the Sirat al-Mustaqim. I chose it. When Mr. Balfour, on behalf of one people, offered to a second people the land which belonged to a third people.
और ये हम नहीं कहते, अवाम कहते हैं।
Whether they love him or they hate him, at least they do listen to him.
He is the voice of the voiceless.
जॉर्ज गैलवे ने गुज़िश्ता सिर्फ 3 बरसों में ब्रैडफोर्ड के शहरियों के लिए मिसाली तरक्याती काम किए, नेशनल मीडिया म्यूजियम को बचाने में अहम किरदार अदा किया।
Would be an act of cultural vandalism to close this museum. Between 3 great northern institutions, but we won't accept it. If there's a division here, it's between north and south.
ओडियन के मसले पर पार्लियामेंट में 2 बार तहरीक पेश की ताकि इसका असल ढांचा बरकरार रह सके। ब्रैडफोर्ड में तालीमी निजाम की बेहतरी और किंग्स साइंस एकेडमी में माली बेजाब्तिगियों पर पार्लियामेंट में सवालात उठाए। जॉर्ज गैलवे ने न सिर्फ ट्रांसपोर्ट, हाई स्पीड रेल जैसे अहम इश्यूज पर आवाज बुलंद की, बल्कि पीआईए की परवाजों पर पाबंदी के खात्मे के लिए भी जद्दोजहद की। टूर डी फ्रांस रेस में ब्रैडफोर्ड को शामिल न करने पर जॉर्ज गैलवे ने भरपूर एहतजाज किया। जॉर्ज गैलवे मजहबी फैशिज्म के सख्त खिलाफ हैं। इन्होंने दुनिया भर में मुसलमानों, खासकर इराक, फलस्तीन, अफगानिस्तान और मकबूजा कश्मीर के मुसलमानों के होने वाले कत्लेआम पर भी भरपूर एहतजाज किया और हर सतह पर आवाज बुलंद की।
The absolute silence, which is complicity of the leaders of the British political class. David Cameron declared, as the women and children were being massacred, that he stood staunchly behind
जॉर्ज गैलोवे ने मेंबर पार्लियामेंट की हैसियत से ब्रैडफोर्ड के मसाइल पर सैकड़ों अर्ली डे मोशंस जमा कराई। आज एक बार फिर आप अपने नुमाइंदे मुंतखब कर रहे हैं। क्या जॉर्ज गैलोवे के अलावा कोई और है जो आपकी नुमाइंदगी का हक अदा कर सके, आपके हक के लिए आवाज बुलंद कर सके, ब्रैडफोर्ड को गुजरते वक्त के साथ रोशन से रोशन तर और अजीम से अजीम तर बना सके? यकीनन नहीं। तो फिर आगे बढ़िए और जॉर्ज गैलोवे के हाथों में हाथ डालकर तरक्की और खुशहाली का सफर जारी रखें।
When I arrived here 3 years ago, there was a giant hole in the ground in the city centre where Westfield was supposed to be, and that hole had lain there unfilled for more than 8 years, and nobody did anything about it. I made it my #1 issue in the by-election campaign, and now Westfield has risen out of that hole, and within a few months will be employing hundreds of people, and thousands of people will be coming into Bradford to spend their money here. When I arrived here 3 years ago, the Odeon was shrink-wrapped and crumbling and falling down, and the council wanted it to fall down so as not to have to knock it down, so we could have a second hole in the city centre to match the other. I made it a major priority in my by-election campaign. We won a landslide majority. The Odeon has been saved. The government has stumped up the money, and soon it will be another jewel in Bradford's crown. No sooner had I got here 3 years ago, but George Grant's government and your government, sir, because both of you are strange bedfellows, no doubt, but bedfellows nonetheless, announced that you wanted to close the National Media Museum, Bradford's only national institution. Ed Vasey, the Culture Minister of the Conservative government, congratulated me from the dispatch box for the campaign he said I had led, which saved the National Media Museum. 5 more years, that's what I'm asking for. I have tabled 250 motions in front of Parliament. The great majority of them, that's in 3 years, by the way. That's more than any other MP in the whole country, by the way. That's more than all the motions tabled by the other Bradford MPs put together, by the way.
Thank you.
I have...
This is the Ummah in Bradford, and it stands with the...
Khalid Mahmood put his name to an article in the Observer newspaper supporting the war. That's the kind of Asian MPs they want, that they can get to do their dirty work for them, not representing this community in Parliament, but representing Parliament in this community. People like you they killed, people like your sons, your mothers. This invasion didn't just kill 1 million Iraqis, it sent violence and extremism cascading everywhere around the world, including in our own country. If a Muslim is convicted of some foul crime against a young child, he becomes a Muslim groomer. Jimmy Savile was never a Catholic groomer. Cyril Smith was never a Protestant groomer. Nobody asked the white people in Rochdale to apologize for the vile crimes of Cyril Smith. Nobody asked the white people in Leeds or even the BBC to apologize for the vile crimes of Jimmy Savile. But when it happens in this community, you're all to blame. You're all responsible. It's your fault. When are you going to speak out against it?
We make absolutely no apology to anyone for our support for the right of self-determination for the people of occupied Kashmir.
People ask me what's the greatest achievement of your life. I say, up till now, my greatest achievement is the by-election victory in 2012, where we came from 0 to a landslide victory. That was all due to the people of Bradford. All praise due to Allah
but the people of Bradford turned out in their thousands to put me back into Parliament and to wipe that smile off Tony Blair's face. So I'm really proud to be the MP here. I think it's a marriage made in heaven, me and Bradford West, and I'm hoping that we can have another term.
Those personal attacks on me, Ms. Shah, cannot possibly be true, can they? Because on the 22nd of February at 1 p.m, you called us and asked us if you could be the Respect candidate in Bradford. And before you make a bigger fool of yourself, I really advise you not to deny it. 22nd of February was the day after you came bottom of the poll with just 13 votes out of almost 220 in the Bradford West Labour Party selection. You were a big loser then, and the kind of way that you have embarked upon this campaign has already ensured you're going to be a big loser again. I have set politics alight in Bradford. That's why the media are here. We turned Bradford politics upside down. We've shaken the complacency of Labour, which is why they hate us so much. They have betrayed the people here in Bradford and elsewhere in the country. We're the real Labour Party, and that's why they hate us.
हालात बदलने की ख्वाहिश नहीं, इरादा करें, आगे बढ़ें। जॉर्ज गैलवे की कामयाबी आपकी कामयाबी है, ब्रैडफर्ड के गैरतमंद और बहादुर शहरियों की कामयाबी है। याद रखें, जॉर्ज गैलवे और सिर्फ जॉर्ज गैलवे।